Before you start watching, please help the channel thrive. Give it a like, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications. Everyone knows Caroline Forbes. She's the bubbly blonde from Mystic Falls who went from a vain high school cheerleader to a fierce vampire mother and leader. She's the one who turned heartbreak into strength and chaos into order. But what if everything you thought you knew about her was just scratching the surface? What if the Caroline we saw, confident, resilient, unshakable, was only half the story? What if the true depth of her journey lies not in her vampire powers or her romantic entanglements, but in the years she spent as a puppet, controlled by the supernatural forces that surrounded her? We're diving deep into the untold story of her life after the supernatural shackles came off, revealing the true woman who emerged from years of compulsion and manipulation. Prepare to see Caroline as you've never seen her before. To understand Caroline's transformation, we must first revisit the era that defined her most formative years, the years of compulsion. The world of the Vampire Diaries is more than just mind control. It's a violation of the self, an erasure of free will that leaves the victim questioning their own memories, desires, and identity. For Caroline, this violation wasn't a one-time event. It was a pattern, a cycle of manipulation that began long before she became a vampire and continued well into her immortality. To unpack its impact, we need to start with the first time her agency was stolen from her, a moment that set the stage for years of vulnerability. The first major act of compulsion against Caroline came at the hands of Damon Salvatore in the early seasons of the Vampire Diaries. Damon, known for his reckless charm and disregard for human life, saw Caroline as little more than a plaything. He compelled her to forget their interactions, to lie to her friends, and to act against her own best interests. One of the most haunting scenes occurs in Season 1, Episode 7, Haunted, when Damon compels Caroline to dance with him at the Founders Ball, her eyes vacant as she follows his every command. In that moment, she is not Caroline Forbes the cheerleader, or Caroline Forbes the loyal friend. She is a shell, a vessel for Damon's whims. This scene is not just a throwaway moment of villainy. It's a microcosm of the powerlessness that would define much of her early life. But Damon's compulsion was just the beginning. As the series progressed, Caroline became a target for other supernatural beings seeking to control her. Klaus Mikkelsen, the original hybrid, used compulsion to bind her to him, forcing her to act as his companion and spy. In Season 3, Episode 14, Dangerous Liaisons, Klaus compels Caroline to tell him the truth about Elena's feelings for Damon, her voice steady but her eyes showing no sign of resistance. He later compels her to forget their conversation, leaving her with a sense of unease but no memory of why. These moments of compulsion were not just physical or mental, they were emotional, chipping away at Caroline's sense of self-worth and leaving her with a deep-seated fear of being used. To understand the psychological toll of this repeated compulsion, we can turn to the work of trauma psychologists like Bessel van der Kolk, who writes in The Body Keeps the Score, that repeated violations of personal autonomy can lead to a state of learned helplessness, where the victim begins to believe they have no control over their own lives. For Caroline, this learned helplessness manifested in her early behavior, her need for validation from others, her fear of abandonment, and her tendency to put others' needs before her own. She was so used to being controlled that she struggled to trust her own instincts, often looking to Elena, Bonnie, or Stefan to tell her what to do. But here's the paradox of Caroline's compulsion years. While they were traumatic, they also inadvertently built her foundational resilience and observational skills. When you spend years being controlled, you learn to read people. You learn to pick up on subtle cues, the shift in a person's tone, the flicker of a smile, the hesitation in a gesture that reveal their true intentions. Caroline's years of compulsion turned her into a human lie detector, someone who could sense when someone was hiding something or trying to manipulate her. This skill would later become one of her greatest strengths as a leader and a friend. When Caroline, still human and recovering from Damon's compulsion, notices that Elena is acting strangely, she doesn't just brush it off as teenage moodiness. She digs deeper, asking questions and trusting her gut until she uncovers the truth. Elena is hiding her feelings for Damon. This moment is significant because it shows that even in her most vulnerable state, Caroline was developing the ability to see through facades. She was learning to trust her own perceptions, even when others tried to convince her she was wrong. Another example of this emerging resilience comes in Season 3, when Caroline is turned into a vampire against her will. At first, she struggles with her new identity, terrified of her own strength and the temptation to harm others. But instead of giving in to despair, she fights back. She seeks guidance from Stefan, practices controlling her urges, and eventually embraces her vampire nature. This journey of self-acceptance is directly tied to her compulsion years. Having been controlled by others for so long, Caroline was determined to take control of her own life, even if that meant embracing a supernatural identity she never asked for. To put this in context, we can look to the work of psychologist Josephine Fisher, who studies the phenomenon of post-traumatic growth, the idea that trauma can lead to positive psychological changes. Fisher writes that individuals who experience trauma often develop greater resilience, empathy, and self-awareness as a result of their struggles. For Caroline, her compulsion years were a form of trauma, but they also gave her a unique perspective on life. She understood what it meant to be powerless, so she was determined to never let anyone control her again. She understood the pain of being misunderstood, so she made it her mission to see and support others. As we reflect on Caroline's compulsion years, we're left with a central question. What kind of person truly emerges when the chains are finally broken? For Caroline, the answer is not a perfect hero or a flawless leader. It's a woman who has known pain and vulnerability but has chosen to turn those experiences into strength. It's a woman who has been controlled by others but has reclaimed her agency. It's a woman who has learned to trust her own instincts and stand up for what she believes in. In the next chapter, we'll explore the pivotal moments and emotional breakthroughs that marked Caroline's definitive break from consistent supernatural influence. We'll examine the immediate psychological impact of this newfound freedom, the fear, the exhilaration, and the profound disorientation, and discuss the conscious choices she began to make, demonstrating her developing self-direction beyond simply reacting to external forces. But for now, let's pause and acknowledge the significance of Caroline's compulsion years. They were not just a dark chapter in her life. They were the foundation upon which she built her strength, her resilience, and her identity. They were the reason she became the woman we know and love, a woman who refused to be a puppet any longer. Caroline Forbes' journey is a testament to the power of the human spirit. It's a reminder that even in our darkest moments, we have the ability to grow, to heal, and to reclaim our power. It's a story that resonates with anyone who has ever felt controlled, misunderstood, or powerless. And it's a story that will continue to inspire us as we watch Caroline evolve from a puppet to a protagonist, from a victim to a leader, and from a girl to a woman who defines her own destiny. As we move forward, let's keep this in mind. Caroline's compulsion years were not the end of her story. They were just the beginning. And what a beginning it was. A beginning marked by pain, yes, but also by resilience, growth, and the quiet strength that would come to define her. A beginning that would lead her to break free from the chains that bound her and embrace a future filled with possibility. A beginning that would show the world that Caroline Forbes is so much more than the sum of her traumas. She is a force to be reckoned with, a woman who has been to hell and back and emerged stronger than ever. And this is just the start of her journey. Before we move on to the next topic, if you have anything you'd like to dive deeper into from the previous segment, please leave a comment below. If it's convenient, give this video a like and subscribe to my channel. Alright, let's move on to the next topic. The moment Caroline Forbes broke free from the last vestiges of supernatural compulsion was not a grand, explosive event. It was a quiet one, a split second of clarity that changed everything. It happened in Season 4, Episode 23, Graduation, as she stood in the middle of Mystic Falls High School's graduation ceremony, surrounded by friends, enemies, and the weight of years of manipulation. Klaus Michelson, the original hybrid who had compelled her time and again, stood before her, and for the first time, she looked at him not with fear or obedience, but with defiance. "You don't get to control me anymore," she said, her voice steady but firm. In that moment, the chains that had bound her for years shattered, and Caroline Forbes stepped into true agency for the first time in her life. This pivotal moment was the culmination of a long and painful journey. It was the result of years of trauma, growth, and small acts of resistance that had slowly built up inside her. To understand the significance of this breakthrough, we must first trace the steps that led her there. We must look at the moments when she began to question her own memories, when she started to fight back against her controllers, and when she finally realized that she had the power to define her own life. One of the earliest signs of Caroline's emerging agency came in Season 3, Episode 19, Heart of Darkness, when she discovered that Klaus had compelled her to forget their conversation about Elena. Instead of accepting this erasure of her memory, she confronted him, demanding to know the truth. "What did I tell you?" she asked, her voice trembling but determined. Klaus, surprised by her boldness, eventually relented, telling her what she had said. This moment was significant because it showed that Caroline was no longer willing to be a passive victim. She was willing to fight for her own truth, even if it meant facing off against one of the most powerful supernatural beings in existence. Another key moment in Caroline's journey toward agency came in Season 4, Episode 14, Down the Rabbit Hole, when she was captured by the Travelers, a group of supernatural beings who sought to strip vampires of their powers. During her captivity, the Travelers used a spell to make her relive her most traumatic memories, including the moments of compulsion by Damon and Klaus. Instead of breaking under the weight of these memories, Caroline found strength in them. She realized that her past traumas had not broken her. They had made her stronger. She escaped from the travelers, not by using her vampire powers, but by using her wits and her resilience. This moment was a turning point because it showed that Caroline's strength was not just physical. It was mental and emotional, rooted in her ability to overcome adversity. To understand the psychological impact of this newfound agency, we can turn to the work of philosopher Erich Fromm, who wrote in Escape from Freedom that true freedom is not just the absence of external control. It is the ability to take responsibility for one's own life, to make conscious choices, and to live in accordance with one's own values. For Caroline, the immediate aftermath of breaking free from compulsion was a mix of fear, exhilaration, and profound disorientation. She had spent so long being told what to do, what to think, and who to be, that she didn't know how to be herself. She didn't know what she wanted, what she believed in, or where she belonged. This disorientation is a common experience for individuals who have been controlled for extended periods of time. Psychologists refer to it as identity confusion, a state where a person struggles to form a coherent sense of self. For Caroline, this confusion manifested in her relationships, her career choices, and her sense of purpose. She found herself questioning everything: her feelings for Stefan, her role in Mystic Falls, and even her decision to become a vampire. Who am I, really? She asked Bonnie in Season 5, Episode 3, Original Sin. Am I just the girl who was compelled by Damon, or the girl who was Klaus's puppet, or am I something more? But while the confusion was overwhelming, it was also a necessary part of Caroline's growth. It forced her to look inward, to explore her own desires and values, and to make conscious choices about her life. One of the first major choices she made after gaining true agency was to enroll in Whitmore College, a decision that took her away from Mystic Falls and the supernatural drama that had defined her life. For Caroline, college was more than just a place to get an education. It was a place to discover herself, to make friends who didn't know her as a vampire or a victim of compulsion, and to build a life that was truly her own. At Whitmore, Caroline thrived. She joined sororities, excelled in her classes, and even started a relationship with Tyler Lockwood, a fellow vampire who understood her struggles. But what was most significant about her time at Whitmore was the way she began to assert her independence. She no longer looked to others for validation or guidance. She made her own decisions, even when they were difficult, and she took responsibility for the consequences. For example, when Tyler decided to leave Mystic Falls to seek revenge on Klaus, Caroline didn't beg him to stay or follow him blindly. She supported his decision but made it clear that she had her own life to live. I can't keep putting my life on hold for you, she told him in Season 5, Episode 11, 500 Years of Solitude. I have to live for myself. This decision to prioritize her own needs was a radical one for Caroline. For years, she had been taught to put others first, to be the supportive friend, the loyal girlfriend, and the obedient puppet. But now, she was learning to be selfish in the best way. Selfish enough to pursue her own happiness, to set boundaries, and to demand respect. This shift in mindset was not lost on her friends. You've changed, Elena told her in Season 5, Episode 15, Gone Girl. You're more confident, more sure of yourself. Caroline smiled, a genuine, unguarded smile. I guess I finally figured out that I don't need anyone to define me, she said. I define myself. To further explore the impact of Caroline's newfound agency, we can look to the work of psychologist Abraham Maslow, who developed the hierarchy of needs. At the top of this hierarchy is self-actualization, the desire to become the best version of oneself. For Caroline, breaking free from compulsion allowed her to move towards self-actualization. She was no longer motivated by fear or the need for validation. She was motivated by a desire to grow, to learn, and to make a difference in the world. This desire to make a difference led Caroline to pursue a career in education. In Season 6, Episode 22, I'm Thinking of You All the While, she accepted a job as a teacher at Mystic Falls High School, a decision that surprised many of her friends. Why would you want to go back there? Bonnie asked. After everything that happened? Caroline's answer was simple. Because I want to help kids who feel like outsiders, like I did. I want to show them that they're not alone, that they can overcome anything. This decision was a testament to her growth. She was no longer running from her past. She was using it to help others, turning her pain into purpose. But Caroline's journey toward true agency was not without setbacks. There were moments when she doubted herself, when she wanted to retreat into old patterns of dependence. For example, in Season 7, Episode 12, Hold Me, Thrill Me, Kiss Me, Kill Me, when Stefan broke up with her, Caroline found herself questioning everything. Am I not good enough? She asked Alaric. Am I destined to always be alone? But instead of wallowing in self-pity, she picked herself up, dusted herself off, and kept going. She leaned on her friends for support, but she didn't let their opinions define her. She trusted her own judgment, and she knew that she would find happiness again, on her own terms. This resilience in the face of adversity is what makes Caroline's journey so inspiring. She didn't just break free from compulsion. She broke free from the mindset that had kept her trapped for years. She learned to trust herself, to value herself, and to stand up for herself. She learned that true agency is not about being perfect or having all the answers. It's about being willing to make mistakes, to learn from them, and to keep moving forward. As we reflect on Caroline's dawn of true agency, we see a woman who has been reborn. She is no longer the puppet who danced to the tune of supernatural forces. She is the master of her own destiny, a woman who makes her own choices and lives with the consequences. She is a woman who has found her voice, her purpose, and her strength. And as we'll see in the next chapter, this newfound agency would fundamentally reshape her key relationships, allowing her to build deeper, more authentic connections with the people she loved. Caroline's journey toward agency is a reminder that freedom is not something that is given to us. It is something that we must fight for. It is something that we must claim every single day. For Caroline, that fight was long and difficult, but it was worth it. Because in the end, she found herself the real Caroline Forbes, not the one others wanted her to be, but the one she was always meant to be. And that is the greatest victory of all.